Alright, so we got the new trigger in for the old Terminator AR that we just built. So what I've got here is a Timney Impact AR. So this trigger is advertised to have a 3-pound pull. She's a drop-in unit, so obviously it just means we should be able to just drop this in. So let's see how fast we could do this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the rifle, obviously, and let's see. There we go. So she's empty. Okay. Put this back on here, and what we're going to do is we're going to check trigger pull. So I've got my handy dandy RCBS trigger gauge. Let's reset that to 0, and let's do a trigger pull test. Very simple. Okay, so this trigger is breaking at 5 pounds. Let's do that one more time. Still got that ring. Ringy dingy dingy dingy. Okay, and 5 1/4 pounds. And just so we can do a average of 3, let's go with the 3rd. Just so we make sure we're on the same place on the trigger. And 4 3/4. So she's averaging 4 3/4, 5 and 5 1/4. Obviously, it's averaging 5 pounds. So let's get this gun broken down. It's going to take 2 seconds. Ready? 1, 2, and we're actually going to take the upper completely off this rifle just to make everything easy to work with. So let's put that on the side. And trigger. Okay, so just to make sure that we're not working with anything involving the upper. You can see this, it's one of the things I like about this Ultimate gun vise. It's got this cute little buffer so that you don't have to worry about the hammer hitting the receiver. Yep, that pulled at 4 1/4. That pulled pretty low. Try that again. That's at 5. So we're looking at 5 pounds. I'm not going to sit here and keep pulling this trigger. So we're looking at 5 pounds. So let's get this trigger out. And again, not all that difficult. Hammer pin. All right. Hammer. Comes out. Trigger. Pin. And have a disconnector. And little wiggle, and out comes the trigger. So let's see, it's probably going to take me longer to open this box. New trigger. And we've got Allen key and some set screws. Okay, so the Timney trigger now goes in, drops in. I've pre-fit this before, so you have to put the safety in, at least get it through, before you go tightening anything up. Reason being is because it won't fit back in there with everything together. So let's put our pins back in, and you'll notice these pins are loose. Okay, so get them centered as best you can, and then there's 2 screws that are in the bottom that I showed you before, and you tighten those screws up, and that brings the trigger up slightly and puts tension on your pins, so that now that trigger is going to sit tight inside the receiver. Don't monster these pins. Use the tool, the little Allen key that's provided. There's no reason for you to go monstering this. An easy check is to make sure that your trigger and hammer pins won't easily push out, which they don't. And let's make sure the safety works. So that should be on safe. And that's, look at that, that's perfect. Then we go to fire. That's nice. Okay, back to safe. Nothing. Fire. Perfect. Okay, so that works. So now, I already put a little dot of Loctite on these tiny, tiny little set screws. So this second set of screws is going to go over the first set that's in there. And let's see if I can get them on without dropping them in there. There we go. And this second set of screws will prevent the first set from backing out. Okay, and that just gets a little torque on it. Again, you're using the Allen key that comes with the kit. Wonderful. Okay. Because I'm a little OCD, that's that. All right, let me put the other side of my safety back on. And there's already Loctite on this, so I'm not going to go putting more Loctite on it. It's a little tiny screw. All right, so that's that. Okay, again, don't over tighten nothing. Let's make sure that that's moving. Okay, again, that's on fire. Put that back in the jig. That's on fire. Cool. That goes to safe. Nothing. Beautiful. Okay. Grip can get put back on, and detent. Would help if I release the latch, right? So the detent goes back in. Make sure that the bevel side is up. Our grip goes back on. Make sure the spring goes into the hole. And then we can go ahead and put our grip bolt back in there. And again, that grip screw does not get any Loctite, okay? I'm telling you now, there's no reason to put Loctite on the grip screw. All right, so let's check again, function check. All right, so safety, click, click. On safe, nothing. Fire, beautiful. Let's see what we're looking in the way of trigger pull before we put the upper back on. It would help if I took the safety off. Thanks for telling me, guys. You know, got to be interactive. And that's pulling at 3.5, so it's advertised as 3. So, okay. Let's reset. And that's 3 3/4. So it's better than before. Before was 5. I'm all thumbs today. I'm going to see what it is on the very bottom of the trigger. That's a 3-pound pull at the bottom of the trigger. Do one more time. Yeah, bottom of the trigger is a 3-pound pull. And then, of course, it gets, as your leverage goes, it gets more and more. All right, now for the hammer, we will definitely put some grease on that. That I just got all over my hands. But, you know, like I said in other videos, you know, this is real life stuff. So, you know, I get all greasy. Get some in there. Get a little bit on the safety. And again, I like this grease. It's a mixture of motor oil. If I can get my... It's a mixture of synthetic motor oil and synthetic chassis grease. So it's been serving me very good for years, and this big mayonnaise jar of it, I don't know how many, 2 years ago I made it, 3 years ago. I still haven't even used a quarter of it. It's great stuff. Okay. So back on with the upper. Get the front pin first. Get that back to get the rear pin. Okay, front pin, rear pin. Okay. Nice. Okay. Let's go on safe. Nothing, not a single, not an ounce of creep. Nothing on that safety. That's beautiful. Okay. So just out of curiosity, with the upper on, three and a half. Let's get it on the bottom of the trigger. Three and an eighth. So I would say it's as advertised. I'm telling you, there's no take up. This is what they call a binary trigger. So there is no take up on that trigger. And she breaks clean, real clean, every time. Alright, so a couple of weeks have gone by. I've had a couple of trips to the range with the AR in the setup, and it is great. I've got the scope zeroed out at 50 yards. It's also almost zero at 100 yards. Maybe just a little bit. You just got to aim a little bit over. But other than that, it's absolutely phenomenal. Again, I left off the iron sights on the side because it just interferes with that net. And I'd rather have the net than the iron sights right now. So I'll work that out eventually. But biggest problem that I had is the pins. My hammer pin kept walking a little bit on me. So I would just push it back. Not too much of a big deal. But with this trigger system, every time I would have to, if I was at the range, I'd have to get out a little punch and kind of give it a couple of wraps, because don't forget, this new trigger is screwed into, it's got the 2 set screws that hold tension on the trigger assembly so that it's up. So I decided to go one step further and install a set of Wilson Combat anti-walk pins. So the trigger and the hammer pin are actually going to be screwed in there, which is real nice. And these are recommended by a lot of people. So super easy installation today. So let me just get these out in the trays. I love these trays on this vise. Super cool. All right. Obviously, the gun is unloaded, and I shouldn't have done that in the vise, but I digress. So the gun is unloaded. There's no magazine. You got to make sure all of that good stuff. Okay. Make sure that's forward. Hit the bolt release. Drop the hammer on it. All right, we're all good. So let's open her up. 1, 2. And come on out, baby. 3. She's gonna open up. You make me look like a fool. Okay, so anyway, I want to take this whole thing off because I have to get to the set screws that are in the bottom. So I'm going to be opening up this front pin also. And these pins from Timber Creek are great because the heads on the pins, let me show you the heads on the pins. The heads on the pins are knurled, so you can get your fingers in there and yank the two of them out. You could saw I just did that with no tools. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen up the 2 set screws that are inside holding this trigger assembly in, and then we're just going to simply replace the hammer and the trigger pins independently. So let's get in there and take the top set screws out. And don't forget, you have a top locking screw. Come on, baby, come on out. And you have a bottom set screw. She don't want to come out. She's just hanging around in there in the grease. There we go. There's one. There's the other one. That's how I like to come out. All right, and we're just going to loosen this up so that we can get the pins out. There we go. All right, and we'll do the hammer pin first. And here's the difference between the pins. So you have your standard pin, okay, and then you've got your Wilson pin. It's got a head on one side, and you put a screw in the other side. So I like doing that, keeping the head, and if you look at the grooves in the pin, those are for the old springs, for the original mil-spec style pins. Before I do that, just put a spot of blue Loctite in there, just a touch, and it being screwed in is going to keep these pins from walking around. And then let's get our first screw on there. All right. All right, and that's started, so we get our other and you can see it comes with both Allen keys, which is really nice. So 2 Allen keys, so it comes with all the tools necessary. Boom, that goes in there. Now this has a little bit of movement to it. The pin, I don't know if you could see that on the video. Let's try to do that. So there's the new pin, okay? And I don't know if you could see this with my fingers, but I have a little bit of play in there, and you want that play. You want that play so that it's not squeezing on the lower receiver, which could distort the receiver, and you don't want that. So I'm really happy that they left you a little bit of play. And again, the other pin comes out super easy. Put a spot of Loctite. Put the other pin through. And that's completely it for the Wilson Combat. All right, and same as the other side, put the screw into the pin, grab the other one, I'll just hold that steady. And that's perfect. Okay, that also has a little bit of play on it. So let's go ahead and let's retighten the set screws. Just give it a little tension. Okay. Perfect. Perfect operation. Okay, let's get the lock screws back in. And those are the ones that go on top to keep the tension on the lower screw. And just a little one ugga dugga. And that's just absolutely the easiest thing on the planet to do. Make sure safety works, perfect. And I love this. This trigger is just a dream to fire. You put your pressure on it, it breaks clean. It's just absolutely a dream to fire. And we just installed it just exactly as you saw. Okay, so that's exactly how easy it is. Okay, so I'm considering this project done. This trigger is awesome. I love the whole look of the rifle, and I'm very happy with this. So on to bigger and better things.